President Biden is vowed to make his administration's COVID-19 response his number one priority. Hi Joseph. Robinette Biden Jr. do solemnly swear his inauguration falling on the one-year anniversary of the first confirmed covet case in the U.S. Through the course of that day, 437 more Americans reported dead from the virus. But you have my word and we will manage the hell out of this operation. For his first 100 days in office, Biden setting the goal of administering 100 million vaccine doses. His administration touting their plan is ambitious, but the previous administration was already on par with that pace, recently hitting the milestone of vaccinating 1 million people per day. And yet some say that might not be enough. Heartbreaking scenes like this in Florida, people lining up for hours eagerly awaiting a shot, only to be turned away. Local leaders across the country saying they've run out of doses, now left to wait for more supply. The state of Michigan had a shortfall about 50,000 vaccines. In Madera County, California, more than 800 people had their appointments canceled until the next shipment arrives. New York City temporarily closing some of its vaccine hubs and rescheduling thousands of appointments for next week. We've had to tell 23,000 New Yorkers who had an appointment this week that they will not be able to get that appointment for lack of supply. New York, one of many states frustrated by the distribution process, as the hardest hit state, that we went from getting 300,000 doses a week, which is actually paltry compared to the population we need to serve, down to 250,000. States have been playing a guessing game, only learning week to week how much more vaccine they'll get. They were getting informed they'll get this amount of vaccine next week, but that doesn't really help them project out how many total first doses they can give, how many second doses they need to have available. The Trump administration set a goal to deliver 20 million vaccines to Americans by the end of 2020, but ultimately fell short of the 37 million doses distributed so far. Roughly 17 million have been administered according to the CDC. Biden proposing $20 billion to develop a national vaccination program, setting up mobile units in hard-to-reach communities and large vaccination centers in areas with bigger populations. In Alabama, Jim and Sandy Mariner showed up to receive their shots, only to find out no one was there to administer them after a scheduling mix-up. We waited a long time for this. It's finally here, and then when the opportunity comes, somebody dropped the ball. We're still waiting to get our shots. Like many Americans, Jim is scared to wait any longer to get vaccinated. I have a dire need for the vaccine. If I catch this thing, I'm gone, so I'm gonna have you pulled down into lane 1. Right here, please. Earlier this week here in hard-hit Los Angeles County, we visited a mega site that's vaccinating thousands a day with this shot. 65-year-old Kathleen Dragovich is one step closer to seeing her 91-year-old mother, who she hasn't seen in over a year. Email you in a couple days to schedule the second show. Kathleen registered for an appointment online, then was in and out of the drive-through site in an hour. How lucky do you feel that this was so easy? This was the easiest thing. This is wonderful. Long Beach Mayor Robert Garcia says it took 6 months of planning to set this operation up to run smoothly. We are not kind of carving up our vaccines and planning out the next 3 weeks. We are trying to get through every single dose that we have as fast as possible. So what I tell people that we run out of vaccine, that is a good problem to have. The mission to get his community vaccinated is deeply personal to Mayor Garcia. His mother and stepfather both died of COVID over the summer. I don't want people to go through like what I went through, and so I know every vaccine to me is like someone's life being saved. Brianna Trejo also lost both her parents just days apart to covet. Her father, a frontline worker, received the first dose of the vaccine, but died waiting for his second shot. We're just like, okay, he gets the first dose, we'll get it and then we'll be fine. You know, but I guess we just ran out of time. 122,000 people are currently hospitalized with the virus. Field hospitals, like something you'd see in a war zone, have been built up coast to coast to manage the crushing overflow of coveted patients. Orange County, California opened its fourth field hospital this week, with 52 more beds to treat covet patients. We're seeing close to 3,000 new cases a day. In the last week, we've seen more than 20,000 new infections. Researchers now tracking another new variant of the virus in California, linked to a growing number of infections. It turns out that the reason why these variants are emerging are simply because we don't have the pandemic under control, just as more cases of the highly contagious UK variant are detected across the US right now. From the reports we have, literally, as of today, it appears that the vaccines will still be effective against them, with the caveat in mind you want to pay close attention to it, but many Americans are still wary of getting the shots. According to a recent ABC News Washington Post poll, only 2/3 of Americans plan to get vaccinated. The heart of the issue has been about transparency and following the science, right? The lack of communication and sort of synthesized information that can arm the public with the response. That has been the issue. Public health officials are actively trying to reach the people who are hesitant, especially communities of color. Scientific information doesn't always land well with communities who are hesitant, or who have concerns, or who have felt that they've been marginalized in the passion. So I think it's really important to engage with the communities, hear what the communities have to say. What are they concerned about? What information do they need to feel confident in the vaccines? The bottleneck in the distribution process has created the biggest challenge. Moderna and Pfizer are producing 10 million doses each week, but the lack of infrastructure to keep pace with demand is holding things back. There need to be sufficient resources to support adequate vaccine manufacturing, and also getting additional resources to state and local governments, because they have been inadequately resourced in the past and really need to ramp up their manpower, their workforce, their IT systems. Biden admits that the way forward will be tough. The brutal truth is it's going to take months before we can get the majority of Americans vaccinated. Still, public health experts say Biden's more aggressive response could turn the tide. I think we'll start to see a real bending of this epidemic curve. Every sort of incremental immunization that we do, we'll start to see the impact at scale. And so within 100 days, I'm very optimistic that while we may not be out of the pandemic and out of the full risk, we will see, a real bright light at the end of the tunnel. For ABC News Live, I'm Kaylee Hartung in Los Angeles. Sounds like the potential for better days is ahead. Our thanks to Kaylee for that. Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the Unlimited Online BD YouTube channel.